This is the gold chart. This is actually on the daily chart. And one thing I think sometimes, in my opinion, I think this kind of agrees with some of the more common thought out there, is look at the daily close price versus what happens during intraday as much. And it probably gives you a better picture of what's going on. I think gold is still going to be in this downward trend for at least a week or maybe 2 weeks. And it could really go below 1,500, even though it had a really good day on Friday. Now, tonight, it was up a little bit. Now it's down a little bit. Same with the silver. I don't know what the hell the metals. Well, they're even. They're not really doing much now. So it's very difficult to judge the metals on an hourly basis. I'm not into that at all. And I just want to get the basic trend, basically what's going on in the next couple of weeks. I'm shorting this metal right now, but I'm not entirely in a short position on commodities. It's kind of a protective thing I'm doing. I don't know if it's correct, but I think, well, there's a couple things. One I said earlier on was that I think that the Greek default, which turned out to be a default, it wasn't a, they didn't add more money to the system or give them more loans or brand new loans. They actually defaulted, and they're causing default insurance to be paid out, which leaves room for Portugal to do the same thing and Spain to do the same thing. And there's still this exodus of money going out from Spanish and Italian banks in Southern Europe, going to like Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, getting the heck out of the banking system down there. It's been going on for months, but it's all a bad sign. But a couple other things that came up very recently is like, well, say for instance, next week in early April, we're going to get the global manufacturing index again, which is still pretty good as of February, although it dropped a little bit from January to February. But preliminary data is showing that China looks like it's starting to get into negative growth territory now as far as the manufacturing index goes. And also preliminary data is showing that Germany and France, the two strongest nations as far as industrial output in Europe, they're below the index. The manufacturing index is below 50, which shows negative growth. Now, if that data comes out, that's going to weigh in heavily on commodities and even gold. Although gold is not really a commodity, but it seems to be treated like one when there's bad economic news. It seems like, the only time gold goes up is when there's a crisis in the world or the United States gets downgraded or something like that. But it's bad. It weighs in heavily on the commodities usually. Now, as far as silver, I was looking at Endless Mountain's technical analysis. Sometimes, I'm not very technical on this stuff, but, I could actually view this a little bit different. Even though this went up a little higher to a higher high, it was really for like one day up, one day down. The day before Bernanke spoke, they were anticipating he was going to say something about QE. Then he spoke. He said nope, and it went down. So, I'd almost say these highs are about, they could be considered maybe even, with the exception of these 2 days. Or if you put it on a weekly, maybe that'll change it. But I'd almost consider this almost like a double top, if you want to look at it that way. And maybe this here could be considered a rough head and shoulders pattern, which would indicate more downward trend. But I'm not so much going by that. But to tell you the truth, a lot of times these technicals do work, so you don't ignore them. Don't ignore them like they're a bunch of hocus pocus, because they are not hocus pocus at all, because they're obeying the laws of nature, and mathematics is found throughout nature, and markets comprised of people, and despite what people think, they're obeying the laws of nature. Despite what you think, even if it's computers rigging the system with high-frequency trading, there's still a big market going on, and it's obeying the laws of nature. But I think temporarily this is probably going to pull back for the same reasons I cited, that it seems like there's a slowdown in China, and you're going to see more data coming out probably in the beginning of April to show that officially there's a manufacturing slowdown in Europe and in China. So that's one thing, and you might see some more curveballs coming up at the euro as far as what's going to happen in Portugal and Spain, because if Greece can default like nothing, it's no big deal. Why can't everybody, right? So we'll see, but that's kind of my And since I don't have an ironclad crystal ball, I got to kind of go by suspicions, but I'm not entirely going by intuition, suspicions. There's a number of things that made me believe this can pull back further, and if it does go down to 25, I don't want anybody getting the dumps or anything like that, because I think that's the last time that's going to happen. You're not going to see 25 after that anymore, because I think what's going to drive up these metals a lot is a revaluation of Chinese money sometime this year, and that's going to devalue the heck out of the dollar. That's what I think is going to happen. I want to get on a little bit with this guy. I'm not really a fan of this guy. When I first kind of heard of him, I was like listening to him. But I think my intuition or my thinking is a little different from some people. Maybe, I'm not really all that suspicious, but I could see he's like a salesman, basically, and maybe I'm a salesman too. But I'm not really, definitely ain't making no $70 million on this thing. I can tell you that right now. But anyway, he's made some bad calls. And I don't like that, because he kind of... Well, let me get on to what this thing says. This is right off the CelebrityNetWorth.com, richest businessman, and he is one of the richest businessmen around. He's trying to save the world, but he's one of the richest businessmen. I always suspect those types. Peter Schiff is a financial broker and author with a net worth of $70 million. Peter Schiff earned his net worth through the writings of his books on economics, television appearances, and he's a CEO of Euro Pacific Capital Inc. He was born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut. Now, as a little side note, there's some theories out here that say he's related to Jacob Schiff. And I looked into that a little bit. I really couldn't find anything. It's probably, what? Maybe he is, but even if he was, I'm kind of just going by other things versus who he's related to. I don't think he is, but who the hell knows? But that's a rumor. Anyway, I'm kind of going by other things that I don't particularly like. And I'll tell you one thing. I remember back in 2007, he was talking about buy the euro, buy the euro. And then it crashed. It crashed in 2008. The dollar's going to crash, buy the euro. Not a good call, buddy. Anyway, this is a little Wikipedia on him, and I want to go into a couple of things with this thing. Like I said, I'm not really too keen on this guy, but I want to give you the straight scoop, what I think how things are going to play out and what's really important. And I'll cut right to the chase right now. One of the most important things is food. Food. Even Jim Rogers says, you know what, this is going to be like a shortage of farmers, because most of the farmers are like 55, 60 years old or something like that in the world. And all these young people don't want to farm. And of course, Jim Rogers don't want to farm. He just wants to be rich. But, he's got a point there. And you know what? If you want to confiscate gold from people, you know what you do? You got a whole pile of masses of starving people. And you say, look, those people got gold. We need it so we can feed you. And you know what? They did that with the church in Russia, too. They confiscated the gold and the wealth from the church because there were starving masses. What kind of Christians are you if you're not giving away your wealth to help feed the people? So, they're not stupid, So you need to protect. People need to protect themselves in a lot of different ways, other than just buying coins. And shiny silver coins and shiny gold coins aren't going to save you. It's a lot of other stuff. It's a combination of things. Because remember, shiny coins don't produce anything. It's production that saves people. Production. But anyway, I want to get on with this thing. In his 2007 book, Crash Proof, Schiff wrote about, different things, and he was telling all his clients, I'm not going to get all this because I'm trying to be fast on this. He was telling all his clients to get out of the U.S. dollar, buy the euro, buy foreign stocks, and buy commodities. This was in 2007. And here, that was pretty much the high point. That was pretty much the high point. So he comes out with this book 2007, and what happens, halfway through 2008, everything crashed. And, it's a little bit of a quote, this is out of Wikipedia, but January 2009, economic blogger and investment advisor Michael Sherlock reported, I have talked with many who claim they have invested with Peter Schiff, and are down anywhere from 40 to 70% in 2008. And that's because Schiff was just going by fundamentals. He wasn't trying to attempt to follow what the real market reaction would be. And, I don't think that's too cool. Because I heard a couple interviews about him talking to some of his clients, and boy, he was doing a song and a dance like crazy with this stuff. It wasn't good at all. But he kind of countered, Schiff kind of countered. He says, my central investing premise, a weakening dollar and safety in gold, commodities, and foreign stocks, didn't materialize in 2008. But all the ingredients were present and still remain present for those movements to occur. So he's all like the fundamentals. He didn't expect that there'd be a flight to quality into U.S. Treasuries. I'm not too keen on this guy, to tell you the truth. I'm not too keen on this guy. Peter Schiff was an economic advisor to Ron Paul's 2008 presidential campaign. Now, with Ron Paul, I get a little bit of suspicion. I don't know, maybe this guy's sincere, but I think he's just being allowed to be in opposition, and it's just kind of like if he's sincere all the way, I'm not even sure if he is or isn't. I know he's got a long track record of voting a certain way and everything like that. But whether that is or it isn't, I think, if you're trying to get behind these politicians, it's probably not going to help too much. I think independence is probably just earned on individual efforts, and I think that's the smartest way to go. In other words, giving money into presidential campaigns and all this type of stuff, it's kind of like a waste of money. It goes into a black hole, and you really lose it. You're probably better off investing that money. If somebody put $5,000 into a campaign, they'd be better off buying food and storing it someplace. Probably that would do them a hell of a lot better, even if they gave it away in exchange for other things later on. I think these campaigns are kind of like a waste all the way. It's all politics. It's all garbage. But a lot of people get behind it because it's like a big focal point, and they're seeing what the issue is and all this kind of stuff. But it's a bunch of garbage. In 2008, December, Connecticut citizens tried to create a website encouraging Schiff to campaign against the incumbent Christopher Dodd. And, this Dodd family had this, there were senators from the father and the son, forever and a year. It's been decades that these guys have been in power. And quite obviously, there's something wrong with that. But sometimes I think this politics is not the way to go about things. It's just a focal point for people to bitch about something. It's not really that great. I think I got a little suspicion of a couple things that are going on with this overall situation with, say, Schiff, and you got Ron Paul and everything. It's all like in a loud opposition, and they're all telling you to buy gold, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold, right? That's what they're all telling people to do. I ultimately think the middle class is going to get ripped off with gold. I got a suspicion about this. I personally like silver a hell of a lot better than gold, and I like palladium a lot better than gold. But anything that has an industrial value or has an actual use value is going to be worth more than gold. And probably number one is food. I think that is the one way, if you look at what the communists did in Russia, and even they were able to successfully persecute the church, all the churches, the Orthodox Christian Church, very well, by using the masses against them because they were starving, and they made the church look bad because they're hoarding gold. So, I wonder about so many people giving into these campaigns and stuff like that. I don't think it's a very smart thing, and I personally think the middle class is going to get ripped off with this gold stuff eventually. I think it's going to go up, but you know what? Not everybody's going to get this right. I think it's going to go up for a while. It's going to probably maybe make a new high this year. It's probably going to go up the next year. But at one point in time, if it starts going up too high, the powers that be are going to set the price or confiscate it or do something. Because if it's going up that high, that means there's an emergency going on. That means everything's going up high, right? Because gold doesn't just go up by itself when everything else is going down, and neither does silver. Everything else is going up. Silver might outperform gold or whatever, but it's kind of like a commodity. And if commodities are going up, that means people are hurting in food prices and energy prices. So the government is going to use the masses against the people that are holding precious metals. So beware of that. And I'm probably going to get, if I see some serious gains, I'm going to start getting out of these metals in pieces, in steps.